Okay, so I'm waiting here for an 8-man to start, and I thought I would take the opportunity to do a little bit of a deck tech. Um, this is my sort of my baby here. It's my attempt at making. I know there's a lot of copies. There's a lot of versions of this deck. I shouldn't say copies. There's a lot of versions of this deck. It's sort of an attempt at making Stax viable in modern, sort of like a white prison deck in modern. So it all really revolves around Crucible of Worlds. Um, really, really powerful card that doesn't see any play in modern. But just a really powerful card, really good interaction with your fetch lands, um, and things like Flagstones of Trocare. So a lot of it revolves around Crucible of Worlds and things like Boom Bust, another really powerful card that doesn't see any play. Early in the game, the nut draw is turn one Arid Mesa or Sacred Foundry, whatever, into turn two Flagstones and boom, and you target your Flagstones and their one land. Flagstones gets you another Sacred Foundry, and you're up 2 lands to none. And then obviously later on in the game, it's sort of just a win condition in itself, because if you have Crucible out and you bust, it's pretty much game over. For Ghostly Prison, um, another. This deck is full of what I think are really powerful cards in Modern that nobody uses. White has all these incredible prison cards that nobody goes near because they're a little slow, but if you can get them going, they're really incredible. Ghostly Prison, just really does a great job against any kind of aggro strategy. Twin, it's really good against. Just really throws a wrench into the plans. For Lightning Helix, just sort of a catch-all kind of thing. You can even just point it at them if you want. For Oblivion Rings, these are really just to deal with like Planeswalkers and Liliana becomes a big problem with this deck. So getting Oblivion Ring going right away is really useful. For Magus of the Tabernacle, this guy is a house in this deck. First of all, 4 mana 2/6, so he's just a complete wall against any, wild Nakatl. Even a lot of Goyfs don't get by this guy. And then again, the Tabernacle ability, making them sacrifice their guys unless they pay 1, which is really synergistic with things like Boom Bust and other stuff that you're doing. Um, there are many, many times where you play Magus and it's just a Wrath of God because they can't pay for any of their stuff. 3 Ajani Vengeance, really critical in this deck. Um, you're just keeping them locked down. Again, synergistic with Magus because you're keeping down their lands that they need to tap to keep their guys alive. The -2 doesn't come up too often, but obviously it's very good. And the -7 on him happens way more often than you'd expect, and it's definitely just game over. For Wrath of God, we don't have blue for Supreme Verdict, so Wrath of God is the next best thing, but it is very good. 2 Chalice of the Void. This is another card that I think is really powerful. Doesn't see any play, but a big problem that you can run into with this deck is that you get going and then you go and play world one of your win conditions and they just have mana leak or remand or something or something like that. So you can put it on 2 to sort of like hedge your bets against counter spells, but also it's really nice just in the early game to get Chalice on 1 just to stop all of their spell snare or lightning helix or sorry path to exile, lightning bolt. Really gets all this stuff really good. And World Queller, another really strong card, takes care of planeswalkers, problem enchantments, things like that, weird things that you're not really expecting. That can take care of, and then it also just provides inevitability by naming land every turn when you have Crucible out, and they don't. And it's a 4/4, so obviously it just gets through a lot of creatures. And Assemble the Legion is sort of the main win condition. If you get this out and you've limited all of their resources, it's very difficult for them to win. The mana base is pretty straightforward. 4 Arid Mesa, 2 Clifftop Retreat. I don't really like Clifftop Retreat, but I don't know. I'd rather... These could, I think, very easily just be 2 more basics, but we'll put them in. 4 Sacred Foundry, 3 Flagstones of Trocaire. I guess this could be 4, but it's just really bad when you don't have Crucible out and you have multiples of this, and it just sort of slows you down. But also, really strong land. 2 basic plains, 1 basic mountain, 4 Ghost Quarter. Another really funny thing that happens a lot with this deck is that so many of these tier 1 decks are playing. I mean, mine doesn't play really many basics, but so many of these tier 1 decks, like Twin or Melirapod or Blue White Red Control, they're playing like 3 basics. So if they have 1 of them out or even 2 out, you've got Crucible and Ghost Quarter, and you can it just becomes destroy target land. Because they run out of basics real fast. So you can take care of that quite easily. 4 Tech Edge. This gets rid of, Celestial Colonnade and problem man lands like that. The sideboard is also not, terribly anything new. The Revokers should be Stony Silences. I don't have them right now. So these should be Stony Silences. 1 Relic, just a good thing to have. A Rest in Peace, another catch-all. Kataki, another thing against Affinity. Affinity can be a real problem sometimes, so I like to hedge my bets against it. Rule of Law, good against Storm, because that's also really hard to interact with this deck. Leyline is so important with this deck because mono black and like Rock and Jund and all that they're just Inquisitioning you and Thoughtseizing you is really, really hard to beat. And the Liana too, they can't make you sacrifice. So Leyline is very strong. Patrician Scorn, I think, is one of my favorite sideboard cards in Modern, just because nobody plays it, and I just love nothing more against Bogles than, like turn 3, Lightning Helix you, Patrician Scorn for free. It's really funny. And 3 Shatterstorm also against Affinity. So this is the deck. So far, I mean, the results have been... Let's check on this queue. 7. So we're going to get started here soon. The results have been pretty strong. I mean, it really does well against a lot of powerhouse decks in the format right now. And, yeah, it's a very, very, very interesting deck. So we'll be back soon with round 1.